Thank you very much for the opportunity of being able to address you this morning. Yesterday morning I was part of the virtual audience, and I want to say congratulations. It worked very well for me. I see two firsts with this Congress. The one is that it's virtual, and the second one is that it's in English. So yeah, I was very impressed, Gila. I saw you sweating, but I think you did very well yesterday. So yeah, there's a goeie begin. So thank you very much. The topic I've been asked to speak on is the demand for wool without a standard. And as I looked at that, I thought, I wonder why it's put in the negative and not in the positive. Because my talk could equally be the demand for wool with a standard. So I'm going to talk around that, and then I'll make a couple of conclusions. But you know, I'm a firm believer, for myself anyway, of the KISS principle. I'm sure you all know about that. You know, it's keep it simple, stupid, and that really applies to me. So there's some terms that are thrown around, and I need to just, maybe for my own sake, just to simplify them a little bit. But the first thing I wanted to touch on is the non-mulesed aspect of our South African clip. You know, I don't think we realize, but it's already been touched on this morning, what an advantage we have. The time for the world to be patient with mulesed animals is long gone. Unfortunately, our Australian friends made a big mistake by not taking this thing seriously. And we have a serious advantage in South Africa for the type of sheep that we have and the ability to actually farm with them without having to mulese them. The world is looking for non-mulesed wool. We heard about that, so I won't emphasize that too much. But more and more of the brands are demanding non-mulesed wool, and they do not care whether it's mulesing with pain relief or not. It's non-mulesed wool. This is why we're even hearing we only want South African wool. And we have some large customers. I don't really want to talk about Seagod Mazrael that much because I'm here on behalf of Sawamba. But one of the large clients we deal with is a retailer called Decathlon. And they will not touch Australian wool. They simply want South African wool, which gives us a tremendous advantage. You know, with the change in presidency in the United States, I think the pressure to become more eco-friendly and environmentally friendly is going to become more and more of a thing. And we need to be sure that our farming practices are eco-friendly and environmental friendly. And then traceability is the other one. Well, I don't think we need to define traceability, but people want to know where their product comes from. In that next to skin sportswear, or in that suit, it's a wool by the way, in that suit, they want to know sometimes not just the country where it comes from, but the farm and the area it comes from. So that traceability and the systems that Cape Wools have put in place make that an incredible future for us. And then sustainability. You know, sustainability is thrown around so often, it kind of loses its meaning a little bit. And so I try to define it for myself. What does it actually mean? And to me, it's simply to get going on something, to get ahead, and to stay ahead. And I think I can say with pride today that our South African wool industry is ahead. And the task for us now is to stay ahead of this wave that the world is wanting to ride into environmentally friendly, fully traceable, sustainable, eco-friendly, etc., etc. No sooner do I understand one of the terms than they come up with another one. So the latest one that I've heard is regenerative agriculture. And I said that very slowly, regenerative agriculture, because I found myself battling to actually pronounce it. So I said... I had to slow myself down a little bit and practice it once or twice, and I think I've got it. And that literally, you know, I asked myself, what does that mean? Well, that actually means looking after your veld, looking after your environment so that erosion doesn't happen, so that you have biodiversity, so that you have vegetation growing. I think Dr. Dupusani touched on it yesterday. We need to prepare and be ready for our veld for the next big drought. We need to prepare those kind of things now. So this is the latest buzzword, this regenerative agriculture. And we're noticing more and more of the fashion houses are actually buying into this idea. And they're actually putting money up for projects that actually encourage regenerative agriculture. Gucci is an example of one of the companies putting up some money at the moment for projects in various places around the world. And I just want to commend probably your parents and your grandparents for the foresight they had in buying into the principle of making the place that they own, the farm that they live on, and preserving it and making better for their children and their grandchildren. So we're actually in a good position where the foresight of our forefathers in the type of sheep we grow, the woolen sheep that we grow, has actually set the pace for us to be able to just continue and to keep going. The Code of Best Practice, for example, was way ahead of its time. And I think the NWGA needs to take credit as well for establishing that. It was probably ahead of its time. And from that, we've now developed it into the Sustainable Cape Wool Standard. So hats off to the work that's been done by our predecessors. There are various standards, and I just want to touch on them specifically. There are probably 4 that are operational and really active in South Africa at the moment. But before I mention them by name and make a few comments about them, I just want to say this. We need to be concerned that these standards are genuine standards and are actually implemented properly. There's no point in crooking a standard or cutting corners. It's supposed to be a standard and it must be adhered to. And we put ourselves in great risk if we just pass everyone. These standards are audit standards, not marketing tools. And I think I just need to say that up front, because I do have concerns about that. So let's talk about the standards quickly. The probably, well, definitely the most important one and the most one that's being promoted and is the most popular at the moment is the Responsible Wool Standard, RWS. And this is the one that's got traction, and the market is paying a premium for these wools. The premium depends on who you speak to, but probably it's fair to say can range anything from 4% to 10%. The problem is it's not consistent. So you don't know from one auction to the next on certain lines what premium you're going to get for RWS. The consensus in the market is once the majority of the commercial wool farmers in South Africa are audited for RWS, that the premium will probably shrink or may even disappear. There's some resistance to RWS, and there's growing resistance in the South African market at the moment. And this is probably due to a number of factors, one of them being the cost. It's becoming an extremely costly exercise, both for commercial farmers, for buyers and small brokers. And this cost is beginning to price that standard probably out of the market going forward. The other problem is this audit requires an immense amount of admin. Those of you that have been verified for the standard and where it's been done properly will realize that the record keeping and the admin is actually quite onerous. Then there's the thing called the transaction certificates from broker to buyer to processor, and these are all denominated in foreign currencies. So that becomes expensive as well. And then many farmers believe that this standard had no input from local South African farmers, and that in some ways it's not practical and perhaps in some cases not even achievable. Then the other standard that's really been popular for a long time and has probably set the bar and the standard is Dave Maslin that spoke earlier from ZQ. They've got a fantastic standard going for New Zealand Merino, and it's all about those wonderful words of traceability from the source, environmental sustainability, animal welfare, quality fiber, social responsibility, and traceable right to the source. So they've done a tremendous job, and they've been going for a number of years and been very successful. Then locally in South Africa, we've developed, the Seagod Mazerol Group has developed the Abalusi standard. And this is, as Dion mentioned earlier, this is a standard that has sort of aligned itself a lot with the Sustainable Cape Wool Standard. And it covers things like animal welfare, environmental sustainability, quality fiber, social responsibility, and is also traceable to the source. So in many ways, very similar to ZQ. This standard is a little bit different in the sense of the people that want to be part of the standard want a personal knowledge of the farmers that actually supply them the product. They do not expect perfection. Obviously, if there are critical things that need to happen, and if their critical fails, then that's a fail. But this standard believes in continuous improvement. So the auditor will get together with a farmer and he'll say, you know, this is a minor problem, but you need to correct it going forward. And what time frame do you think you'll be able to sort this out in? So it's continuous improvement. What the Sea God Knows Role group has been able to do is they've been able to sell this standard to people like the Decathlon group. Asphalt is another one that's come on board. And so it's shortened that long wool chain so that it goes all the way from on-farm to end retailer, using only a very few people in between. And then I come to the last one and the fourth one, which is obviously the one that I'm very excited about as well, and that is the Sustainable Cape Wool Standard. It does all those good things and more. The sharing app that Dion's just spoken about, the good things that are being done, the continuous improvement, what did you say, version 11 already, or 10 in 11 months. So it's a fantastic standard. And I really would like to see the entire industry support the Sustainable Cape Wool Standard and buy into that. You know, the question obviously is going to be asked, and probably is asked already, why so many standards? And isn't there going to be audit fatigue when it comes to the on-farm level? You know, I need to just pause and say this is the future. Without standards and without these independent audits, it's going to be difficult to sell your wool. So to answer the question, the demand for wool without a standard, I personally believe you're always going to be able to sell your wool. But going forward, I believe if you haven't got a standard that backs you, you're going to be selling your wool at a discount. So there's going to be a better price paid for wool that has a standard. And you'll see the Cape Wools report almost every week says the prices for sustainable wools that have a sustainable wool standard obtained a premium. So going forward, this is the future. We are ahead. We need to stay ahead and we need to keep going. Now, I mentioned that there are 4 standards. And you think to yourself, no, man, 4 audits. Well, Dion's already mentioned that with that tablet and that electronic means, 2 audits, Sustainable Cape Wools and Abalusi, can be done in one shot. I'm also aware of the fact that RWS and ZQ can be done in one visit to the farm, in one shot. So really, all those 4 audits that I've mentioned, all those 4 standards can be done in 2 audits. And I would recommend that you decide which one is going to work best for you and that you get on board with at least one of them, if not both of those audits, which will cover you for 4 wool standards. So by combining these audits, we've actually simplified the audit process. And I believe you will not need to be thinking to yourself, man, not just another audit. You know, it's really worthwhile to do it. What we found in Abalusi auditing is that many farmers are really open to it and are very happy to have it done. You know, the resistance from farmers for audits, probably there is a little bit. In the early days, you might have to forgive my language here, but in the early days, one of our main auditors went to a farmer and he was actually a businessman, so he kind of farmed part-time, but we were very keen on buying his wool. So we said, look, can we come and audit you? He ummed and ahed a little bit, and eventually he said yes. So our auditor, who's quite English-speaking, sat down with him and went through the process. And he got to one question and he asked the question, and the farmer looked at him and said, "Wat 'n kakvraag is dit?" So you do have a bit of resistance here and there, but generally speaking, most farmers are really happy to be audited and actually proud when they are presented with the certificate and they're given some good advice to carry on. I need to mention again something that's been mentioned. Recently, all the wool buyers signed saying they support the Sustainable Cape Wool Standard. So this is something we would like the whole of the South African industry to start supporting. We therefore encourage all farmers to support these standards, and this is the only way that we're going to benefit going forward. I think I've covered everything. Just to perhaps finish off from a phrase borrowed from our dear president, I thank you.